What's going on, my fellow Jedi and Padawans? Welcome back to another Jedi gaming video. Thank you guys so much for coming back to the channel, and if you guys are new, welcome. Today we're going to be taking you through a Strand and Prismatic build using the new exotic chest piece, the Mataiodoxia. Let me have it in the comments. Don't know how to say that word, but for the armor perk on this bad boy, targets that are damaged by the arcane needle emit a suspending detonation when defeated. After landing multiple arcane needles on the same target, it triggers a larger, more powerful detonation. Defeating suspended targets doesn't have to be from the melee, also grants us melee energy, so we're building this out on the Strand side for sure. Heavy into the Suspend side of everything. Prismatic definitely very good as well, just because we have the arcane needles on that, and with the Heart of the Flame combination of Transcendent, it is disgusting. Plus our barrier champions can be stunned by the arcane needles with this chest. So the first setup I'm going to take you through is our Brood Weave. We're going to go through it pretty quickly, but just know that it is basically all about Suspend. One reason why we're using the Shackle Grenade as well as the Wanderer. So with the Needle Storm, Healing Rift, and Arcane Needle, obviously went with the Shackle for that Suspend as well as the Wanderer. So all those tangles that we have, when we throw them or detonate them, they will burst, creating a suspending burst as well. Destroying tangles gives us a chance to have tangles, or I should say using threadlings gives us a chance for tangles. So it is a beautiful synergy build with the Strand side of things. The way that we are getting those threadlings is when we activate our class ability, we get 3 of those to perch up on us, giving us a chance to create even more tangles, giving us even more suspension. Right here, defeating suspended targets also is going to give us class energy. So on top of the melee energy that we're getting from the chest piece, we're getting Thread of Mind to proc as well, to get back our Rift, to have even more of these threadlings, to have even more tangles to throw for the Wanderer. Next off, we got Thread of Transmutation. So when we have Woven Mail, final blows with the weapons will also help us to create even more tangles to go with the Wanderer. We're getting that Woven Mail by picking up Orbs of Power, so we're going to be using a bunch of different Strand weapons, 3 of them to be exact in each slot. Totally up to you what you want to use, but this was definitely slapping. Went through a GM with it in the gameplay that you saw beforehand. Now last but not least, we got Thread of Propagation. So powered melee final blows grant our Strand weapons that unraveling rounds. One of the reasons why we're using 3 Strand weapons on the Strand side of this build, making it absolutely crazy with that unraveling on top of all the Suspend and the threadlings that we have for the Brood Weave. Now when we switch to the Prismatic side of things, we're going to have our Arcane Needle, of course, to pair with the chest piece. I've been really liking the Storm Grenade, but in all seriousness, threadlings, anything is totally a good choice. I personally like Song of Flame, feels the best, especially for that end game content, keeping us alive, doing a good amount of damage. On top of that, we're going to have Feed the Void. So with those arcane needles, all the defeats that we're going to get, not only going to give us that energy for melee on those suspended targets, but we're also going to get Devour on those defeats that we're getting, whether it be with our Storm Grenade or our arcane needle. But this is definitely what we're going for in the build, especially with the chest piece. We're going to be using Bleak Watcher on the Prismatic side of things, just because, of course, why not? Very good little side to have. Slowing targets, unstoppable, as well as overloads can be stunned by this, and we're just getting all of the enemies in the area to slow down and let us deal with them at our own pace. Now on top of that, we're going to have Facet of Balance right here. So rapidly defeating targets with light damage gives us melee, dark damage gives us grenade, so allowing us to spam this a little bit more, as well as to get our Arcane Needle to proc with our chest. Second on the list, we got that Facet of Courage. So our Arc Solar Void abilities are going to deal more damage to targets affected by that darkness buff. So once we get the Suspend, that's why we have a light grenade on, so more in the fact that like something like this would work better to proc with Courage, because it'll do more damage on those targets that are suspended by our debuffs with this or with our slow. On top of that, Facet of Honor right here, picking up those elemental pickups or destroying tangles, grants us Transcendent Energy of Darkness, since we will mostly be getting some fire sprites as well as those tangles, maybe some ionic traces as well. Right here, Facet of Solitude, when we land those rapid precision hits, we get a Sever Blast from those targets. While Transcendent, this Sever Blast is bigger, so in general, a very good perk just for that Sever creating a decently big blast in my opinion, especially when you're transcendent. Plus it'll help us with another one of those darkness debuffs with Sever, so our light abilities inside of Courage is going to do a little bit more damage. Then last but certainly not least here, that Storm Grenade is going to jolt targets on top of it, so absolutely disgusting combination in my opinion of either the Strand synergy or the Prismatic synergy and this chest piece. Alright, we're going to change this up a little bit because of the way that I have both these subclasses. As you can see, this is a little bit higher than normal because it is with our Prismatic subclass, so we will be changing one of these out for a strength mod when we're using our Prismatic, but on the other hand, it will be all of that resilience, so we can have our double 100s in resilience and strength. That's definitely what I was building this out to, with recovery being my third option. So a little different facet based on the subclass we are using, but mostly this is going to stay the same. Totally up to you though, depending on the situation you're going into. So like for me, for when I'm using the Prismatic build, I'll be able to switch my weapon surges because I'm going to be using a kinetic if I would like, as well as an arc. But when I'm on the Strand side of this build, I'm using all Strand weapons, so that's why I have the Strand weapons surge. So it's totally up to you for these kinds of mods in the Strand surge, as well as the siphon that we're getting, because obviously now that we're on harmonic siphon and the Prismatic, it's going to be solar, but when we're on Strand, it's all going to be that Strand synergy that you can see. Really important though, I would say, is focusing strike mixed with impact induction as well as momentum transfer, allowing us to spam our melee grenade and class ability even a little bit more. And then totally up to you if you want heavy or special ammo finder and scout on your helmet. Now when we move on to our weapons, like I said, when I was using Strand, had a couple options with the Glissando, we had the Red Robin, as well as the Call for our options, bunch of different champions that we can stun with that, with the Tessellation. So when we were using something like the Round Robin with the Tessellation, this had our nice Strand surge on it as well, have that catalyst done on top of it, so we are getting those targets with that blast of when we consume our grenade, gets an elemental effect matching our grenade's damage type, so we're getting another Strand debuff on those enemies with the Tessellation. Plus we got that Pro Memoria as well with Envious Bait and Switch for the Strand synergy. I was keeping this heavy on basically no matter what to help with our Transcendent as well, but when I was running my Prismatic subclass, especially on the GM I was running, really liked Indebted Kindness with Outbreak because we were getting all of our different champion stuns. Outbreak was doing our barrier champions. We had this for Unstoppable, plus with the Bleak Watcher we had Overload and Unstoppable, and our Arcane Needle in general is able to do those unstoppable barrier champions, I should say, with our Arcane Needle. So it is a sweet little combination of builds that we have, whether it be with Prismatic or the Strand subclass. Now last but not least with the build, this is how we had it built out basically either way, besides one little change in my opinion, specifically with the third column. So when we were switching it up inside of the Prismatic field, I had this Creeping Chill because we did have our Bleak Watcher out, and if you did happen to throw on a stasis weapon like in our energy slot or something like that that just melts enemies, you could throw on that like Azure Scepter. But the other way that I ran it most of the time was with this stranded threaded blast. So when we do destroy those tangles with a strand weapon, the explosion is going to be larger and cause more damage. So we were actually able to suspend more targets with the Wanderer, and this made it very good for that end game content. Now, like I said, we went through GMs with this, so Overload Hand Cannon, that Unstoppable Sidearm, as well as Anti-Barrier Pulse was used pretty heavily, as well as that Counter Energy. So when we stunned one of those champions, we got a little bit of energy for our melee grenade or our rift, depending on what was least charged. We were also becoming radiant when we were on that Prismatic subclass because picking up orbs gave us that radiant, so we were able to do a little bit more damage with that, of course, as well as our heavy also became anti-barrier. Now last but not least, I went with Shield Crush on this, so when we did have that Woven Mail, we were getting our melee. While we had radiant, we were getting our grenade back, as well as transference here. We got some grenade melee energy while transcendent, as well as weapon final blows while transcendent refund that energy until it ends. So beautiful little synergy between this and the Prismatic subclass, as well as the Strand subclass. So having the duality of going either way with it is pretty gnarly in my personal opinion. Gameplay at the beginning shows you the nice version with the Strand. Gameplay right here is with the Prismatic, both in the GM, the Glassway. Very good little GM to go through. Prismatic makes it feel super easy. The Strand version was a little bit more challenging, just because in my opinion of how overpowered that Prismatic can be. But the combination of being able to stun champions inside of the Strand version with just our Arcane Needle, getting that Suspend everywhere with the triple Strand weapons was working very well. On top of it, we got through it no problem, about 28-25 minutes in both runs. Pretty little slept on chess piece for sure, since especially we got those class items that really make Prismatic overpowered, but this chess piece goes both ways inside of the Strand and Prismatic side of the field, so definitely would give this a shot. Warlocks, it is truly busted, that combination, because you could go either way, plus you're stunning champions everywhere. Nothing can get close to you. Those Arcane Needles do a good amount of damage, and we love it on the Strand build, going with those tangles everywhere, suspending. We got Wanderer, we got Threadling, so a little bit of an easy blast to go through basically any type of content, since you can see its viability even in those GMs. So appreciate all you guys for coming back to the channel. Happy Sunday to all y'all. Maybe a video tomorrow, definitely on Tuesday. I'll keep y'all posted on Twitter, the Discord, like that, so make sure to get into there, hit that bell, subscribe button if you would like, so you don't miss out on any of these videos here. But again, truly appreciate you guys. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Peace.